Oregon sophomore quarterback Justin Herbert, out with a fractured left collarbone, has been throwing at practice and maybe more importantly, according to Coach Willie Taggart, is drinking his milk. "I was sitting with him at dinner the other night and he had 2 vitamin D cartons right there," Taggart said. He said, "Coach, I'm drinking my milk. You got to love him." Taggart would love him a little bit more if Herbert were able to help the Ducks' 43-13 Pac-12 get out of this current tailspin. Herbert broke his left collarbone scoring on a 7-yard touchdown run in the first quarter against California on September 30th. In 2 games without him, Oregon has lost 3,310 at home to number 15 Washington State 61-31 and on Saturday fell 497 at number 22 Stanford 52-41. That's a combined score of 8,217 minus Herbert, who originally was said to be out 4 to 6 weeks. Freshman quarterback Braxton Burmeister has struggled mightily in Herbert's absence. Senior Taylor Alley has also played poorly. Their struggles have led to a virtual collapse of Oregon's offense, which entered the WSU game averaging 49.6 points per game. Saturday's 7 points were the fewest scored by an Oregon team since 2007 when the Ducks lost 160 to UCLA after star quarterback Dennis Dixon went down for the season with a knee injury. The 4th week out from September 30th is October 28th when the Ducks host Utah. Could Herbert return then? If it were up to him, he would probably play this week at UCLA. "Justin really wants to get back as soon as possible," Taggart said. "It's pretty cool to watch." Herbert did begin throwing last week, and Oregon's football Twitter account at Oregon Football put out a video of him throwing the ball around on Sunday. Watch a welcome sight for at Oregon Football as they wrap up their Sunday practice. At Duck Football and at McNamara who have today's Quack Minute. Pic.twitter.com/nudge18. Oregon video at Quack Video October 16, 2017. Because Herbert injured his non-throwing shoulder, he has been able to get a jump start on regaining his form and timing before the injury is 100% healed. The pressing question is, when will that be? Indications from team sources at the time of the injury made it sound like he could return closer to the 4-week mark than the 6-week mark. However, other sources said that October 28 would be pushing it. Herbert returning for the Ducks' November 18 home game against Arizona would be 7 weeks from when the injury occurred. Without Herbert in action, the Ducks are increasingly becoming in danger of becoming bowl eligible. Little evidence suggests that UO can win any of its next 3 games without Herbert: at UCLA 33-12, home against Utah 42-12 and at number 12 Washington 61-31. Losing all 3 would put the Ducks at 46 with 2 games remaining. Oregon would then need to defeat Arizona 42-21 and Oregon State 16-04 to reach 66. At one time that seemed like a given, providing Herbert returned at least by the Arizona game. However, the Wildcats have seen a resurgence thanks to the play of sophomore quarterback Khalil Tate. In 2 starts, he has rushed for 557 yards and 6 touchdowns while passing for 302 yards and 2 scores with 0 interceptions. If Oregon needs to defeat Arizona in order to become bowl eligible, the Ducks could be in big trouble, with or without Herbert. For that reason, it might be a must that he returns for Utah in order to increase the Ducks' chances of getting to 6 wins. "I'm sure he will get back sooner than we think," Taggart said. "The Ducks had better hope so." Stanford. It's official. The Oregon Ducks are a white-hot mess with no remedy in sight beyond the return of quarterback Justin Herbert. Losing Saturday night at Stanford was largely expected. But getting trounced 497 in a game that saw the defense appear to be unprepared and freshman quarterback Braxton Burmeister display 0 improvement over last week, it's safe to say that the Ducks' 43-13 Pac-12 will not win a game until Herbert returns from a broken collarbone. The question now is whether or not the team becomes completely demoralized in the interim, making Herbert's ultimate return irrelevant. Oregon coach Willie Taggart insisted that his team would remain upbeat and positive. Senior running back Royce Freeman, a team captain, said it's imperative that Oregon maintain its confidence. Nevertheless, some of the long faces of players leaving the field following the game displayed more than just your garden variety disappointment. Some appeared to be downright devastated, including a 3,310 loss to WSU last week. The Ducks have lost their last 2 games by a combined score of 8,217. Such beatdowns are typically reserved for the FCS teams Oregon pays hundreds of thousands of dollars for them to come get smacked around at Autzen Stadium. This is an Oregon team that 3 weeks ago grappled with the disappointment of suffering its first loss, 3,735 at Arizona State. Now, they can't score 35 points over 8 quarters, and the problems all start and end with the quarterback play. Before this continues, it must be reiterated that Burmeister is only a true freshman. He shouldn't have been expected to perform as spectacularly as Herbert did as a freshman last season when he passed for 19 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Burmeister could still develop into a great quarterback. That all said, what we witnessed Saturday cannot be merely chalked up as freshman jitters. It might have been Oregon's worst performance from the quarterback position in at least 20 years. It's certainly in the conversation. Things got so bad that Taggart figuratively threw his hands up in the air and at times refused to call pass plays even while facing obvious passing down and distance situations. Burmeister completed 3 of 8 passes for 23 yards with 2 interceptions. Senior Taylor Alley entered the game in the third quarter in hopes, Taggart said, of providing a spark. Instead, he completed just 2 of 5 passes for 10 yards. Included was a throw that went straight into the ground about 3 yards in front of an open Jacob Breland, who reacted in frustration that certainly was felt by every player on the team. Whether they would admit it tonight, let those passing numbers sink in for a second, then try to recall having witnessed a worse game from Oregon quarterbacks. In 2007, after quarterback Dennis Dixon went down with a knee injury at Arizona, Oregon lost the following week 160 at UCLA. In that game, the quarterback trio of Cody Kempt, Brady Leaf and John Roper completed 11 of 39 passes for 139 yards with 3 interceptions. One could argue that those numbers are actually worse overall than what we saw on Saturday, but at least former coach Mike Bellotti kept trying to throw the ball. When the Ducks lost 198 at Boise State to start the Chip Kelly era, they at least got 121 yards out of quarterback Jeremiah Masoli, who rushed for a touchdown, as did Burmeister against Stanford. Even during the 2015 Alamo Bowl debacle, Jeff Locke completed 7 of 15 passes for 36 yards with 0 interceptions in just over a half of football. That's better than the 5 of 13 for 33 yards with 2 interceptions that Burmeister and Alley combined for at Stanford. What makes Saturday doubly disappointing is that Burmeister displayed 0 improvement from his performance last week against Washington State. In fact, he regressed. Against the Cougars, Burmeister completed 15 of 27 passes for 145 yards and a touchdown with 2 interceptions. Oregon would have killed for numbers like that on Saturday. They would have helped the offense sustain drives by supporting the 276 yards Oregon rushed for. Even Roper, a freshman in 2007, progressed from game to game. Following that UCLA loss, he completed 13 of 25 passes for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns with 1 interception during a loss to Oregon State. A month later in the Sun Bowl, Roper completed 17 of 30 passes for 180 yards and 4 touchdowns. Oregon linebacker Troy Dye said the defense couldn't allow 49 points, so the unit is in no position to worry about what the offense is doing. However, if a team is going to run a no-huddle offense and leave your defense on the field for 37 minutes, then you had better score loads of points on offense. Otherwise, you can expect the other team to find the end zone quite often. UCLA is next for the Ducks. The Bruins 33-12 have the second worst defense in the conference, allowing 40.5 points per game. With Herbert, Oregon would likely drop 50 in UCLA. Without him, the Ducks might be lucky to reach 24 points. On the other side, the Bruins' offense is averaging 39.5 points per game. Put Oregon's defense on the field for 37 minutes with no scoring support from the offense against the Bruins, and quarterback Josh Rosen will lead them to 50 points in a heartbeat. A third lopsided victory will put this team's resolve to the ultimate test. If they break, the Ducks could fall short of reaching bowl eligibility for the second consecutive season. I'm waiting. Not for Oregon to do something. I'm waiting for them to say something. Braxton Burmeister, a true freshman, had a miserable night at Stanford Saturday. He completed 3 passes for 23 yards and had 2 interceptions. Ugly. But this is a freshman who was supposed to be a redshirt this season. He is playing only because the previous coaching regime missed on some quarterbacks it recruited and really missed on one at DIDNT, a kid out of Lakeridge named Eric Dungy, who ended up at Syracuse and very well might be named the National Player of the Week after leading his team over Clemson Saturday. But that's ancient history. What I'm waiting for the current coaching staff at Oregon to say is simply, we just aren't doing a very good job of getting our young quarterback ready. The Ducks aren't throwing Burmeister under the bus, they're throwing him to the wolves. He's getting beaten up mentally and physically. I mean, this kid was touted as a pretty promising quarterback when he was recruited. He seems to have some tools. And I have a hard time believing the Ducks couldn't come up with some throws for him that he is capable of executing. Oregon is a puzzling offensive team. It rushed for 276 yards against the Cardinal and has a bevy of outstanding running backs. I'm not sure why that running game isn't translating to open receivers. How about some effective play-action passes? Stanford has built its program on a power running game, strong offensive line play and play-action passes. It hasn't asked much from its quarterback since Andrew Luck took his talents to Indianapolis. Oregon coach Willie Taggart is well aware of that system. He was there. Is it too much to ask that a few temporary changes be made with Oregon's offensive system? And while I'm at it, why go no huddle with an inexperienced quarterback? All it does is shorten Oregon's possession time and put more pressure on its defense. Run some clock, shorten the game. The no huddle is doing nothing but harm right now. Run the ball, run clock, and keep the other team's offense off the field. Give yourself a chance, and give your young quarterback a chance. Oregon's running game had better show up Saturday night at Stanford, or this game will be over before Cardinal running back Bryce Love reaches the 175-yard mark. Forget about what happens at quarterback for the Ducks. 42-12 Pac-12. Braxton Burmeister, Taylor Alley, both doesn't matter at this point. Whatever Oregon gets from that position will be gravy, and it's not as if Stanford's quarterbacks do much damage, either. What matters most for Oregon is that the offensive line doesn't let down the team again like last week during a 3,310 loss at home to number 8 Washington State 60-30 by gaining just 132 yards. The linemen admitted their mistakes. So did their leader, co-offensive coordinator Mario Cristobal. UO coach Willie Taggart made it clear that the players around the quarterback position must play better in order for the Ducks to win, and he was mostly talking about the offensive line. Just our entire performance was frustrating, Cristobal said. After a week to lament, the offensive line will have a chance to redeem itself and replicate the 328-yard rushing performance the team put forth 2 weeks ago during a 4,524 win over California. When the line is humming, the running back trio of Royce Freeman, Connie Benoit and Tony Brooks James usually dominates. They are one of the best trios in the nation. But even they can't get loose with no place to run. Stanford's defense isn't playing as its usual dominant self. The Cardinal rank 9th in the conference in rushing defense, 182 yards per game, while Oregon is averaging 239.3, good enough for third, right behind Stanford 260.5, so there's no excuse for the Ducks not to get the job done in the running game. Not even the reality that the Cardinal could key on the run, as did WSU, knowing that sophomore quarterback Justin Herbert isn't at quarterback to burn it with the passing game. Stanford hasn't needed strong quarterback play to balance out the run game. The Cardinal is averaging 188.3 passing yards per game, with Keller, Christ and KJ Costello having split the duties. But they haven't turned the ball over much, with just 2 interceptions thrown, both by Christ. The Cardinal relies heavily on Bryce Love, who has rushed for 1,240 yards on the season. That's 46% of the Cardinals' offense. The scariest part is that the 5'10", 196-pound Love doesn't require much running room in which to operate. This kid can find the smallest hole and get through it, Taggart said. And that's a challenge for a lot of defenses. Oregon, on paper, appears equipped to handle Love. Or, at least not let him run wild. The Ducks rank 2nd in the Pac-12 and 10th in the nation in rushing defense, allowing 93.7 yards per game. However, UO has faced the 2 worst rushing teams in the conference, WSU 82.7, 125th in the nation, and Cal 96.8, 122nd, and the 9th-ranked rushing team, Arizona State 129.4, 97th. Nebraska 148.5 ranks 79th in the nation, and Wyoming sits at 118th, 100.4. Furthermore, none of those teams has a running back like Love. And none run the style of offense that Stanford does. Nebraska comes close, but Stanford's power running game with multiple tight ends and a pounding fullback working in concert with a strong offense line is another animal. For Oregon to be successful against Love, the Ducks cannot blow pursuit angels or expect that someone closer to the ball will make the play. Stack the box, UO senior cornerback Arian Springs said. Stock the box. Everybody just has to be ready to stop the run. Everybody has to contribute. It's not just going to be the front 7, said Taggart. We've got to gang tackle. It's not going to be one guy bringing him down. He can get stopped for 2 or 3 plays, and the next thing you know he will break one for 60. So figure that Love is going to do his thing. The quarterbacks for both teams will be pedestrian, although Oregon's should be helped by the return of sophomore receiver Dylan Mitchell concussion and potentially senior slot receiver Charles Nelson ankle. That leaves Oregon's running attack as the only reliable aspect of the team that could lead the Ducks to a win. That's not a bad situation to be in if the offensive line brings its A-game. Oregon at number 23, Stanford 1:08 p.m. Saturday, Autzen Stadium, TVFS 1, betting line Stanford minus 10.5. Records: Oregon 42-12 Pac-12, Stanford 42-31. Last week Stanford won 2,320 at Utah. Oregon lost 3,310 at home to number 8 Washington State 60-30. Coaches: Ducks Willie Taggart 4,447-42 at Oregon. Stanford's David Shaw 6,817. Fear factor 5-point scale 5. If Burmeister or Ali improves dramatically overnight, the Ducks will have a strong chance of pulling off the upset. But only if UO's rushing attack is on point. Final pick: Stanford 37, Oregon 27. UO shows improvement on offense but not enough to combat Stanford's rushing attack led by Love. Media members who cover the Pac-12 picked defending champion Oregon to finish 4th in the Pac-12. Arizona was picked to win the conference title. Oregon State is picked to finish 8th, considering that Oregon, which reached the Final Four last season, lost Jordan Bell, Dylan Brooks, Tyler Dorsey and Chris Boucher to the NBA, along with Dylan Ennis being picked to finish 4th is quite complimentary. The Ducks return one impact player, sophomore point guard Peyton Pritchard, leaving coach Dana Altman to rebuild with a few other young returners, transfers and a loaded recruiting class that includes 5-star guard Troy Brown. Oregon will play Northwest Christian in an exhibition game on November 30th before opening the regular season November 20 at home against Coppin State. Pac-12 conference play begins December 29th. The Pac-12 tournament will be held Mar. 710 at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. 201,718 Pac-12 men's basketball preseason media poll team first place points 1. Arizona 2-2-273-2. USC 1-251-3. UCLA 223-4. Oregon 203-5. Stanford 182-6. Arizona State 146-7. Utah 129-8. Oregon State 125-9. Colorado 112-10. Washington 71-11. California 46-12. Washington State 33. I took to Twitter this week to answer fan questions about the Oregon Ducks. You can find all of them using Ask Fountress. Here are some of the best ones as Oregon prepares to play at number 23 Stanford this weekend. Nothing new. Original time frame is 46 weeks. I believe he could return October 28th versus Utah. Should return no later than November 18th against AZ. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontris October 12, 2017. If Herbert plays 4 years, then 2019 could be the year. Not sure I buy UO being a top 10 team next year, though. Maybe. Ask Fountress. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontris October 12, 2017. Yes. Oregon will get at least 2 more wins. Ask Fountress. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontris October 12, 2017. No doubt. However, still not sure Nelson is healthy. He was still limping a bit out there early in the week. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontris October 12, 2017. The D played well enough to win. However, a bad trend has formed. UO has given up 9 TD passes in Pac-12 play with 0 int. Ask Fountress. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontris October 12, 2017. It's never a good look to lose or to have fans exit early. However, I'd expect most recruits recognized that Herbert was out. Ask Fountress. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontris October 12, 2017. Yes. Herbert will return in time to at least help UO get wins over Arizona and Oregon State. Beyond that, ask Fountress. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontris October 12, 2017. Yes. He was still a big banged up. Ask Fountress. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontris October 12, 2017. Yes. They've run some. However, those can be a recipe for disaster for a young QB. Ask Fountress. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontris October 12, 2017. Same as against WSU. Must rush for 250 plus and must get 225 yards of offense from the QB. If those things happen, Ducks have a shot. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontris October 12, 2017. Yes, Oregon could win. Stanford lacks offensive firepower outside of Love. It all comes down to the Ducks' running game. Must dominate. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontris October 12, 2017. I do. Braxton is more talented than Ali and thus has more upside. Develop him. If he falters again, maybe Taggart turn to Ali. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontress, October 12, 2017. Most teams do this. If it's the first game, acts as a tune-up. I'd prefer to see another Power 5 opponent. But it takes two to tango. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontress, October 12, 2017. Possibly. 5-star WR Devin Williams remains undecided. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontress, October 12, 2017. A flock of them routinely poop on my car. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontress, October 11, 2017. He did. Very much so. However, he didn't enjoy witnessing all of those injuries. Aaron J. Fentress at Aaron Jontress, October 12, 2017. Previous post-defensive report card. The most impressive aspect of Oregon's season thus far has been the dramatic turnaround of the defense under new defensive coordinator Jim Leavitt. Last year, Oregon ushered offenses into the end zone while ranking 126th in the nation in total defense, 518.4 yards allowed per game during a 48 season. So far this year, the Ducks 42-12 PAC-12 ranked 29th in total defense, 338.3, and 10th in rushing defense, 93.7. The Ducks lead the conference in sacks, 24, and are tops in third down conversion defense, 24.5%, after ranking 11th last year, 48.5. The Ducks are by no means dominant on defense but have shown flashes of heading in that direction. It's still a very young group with just 4 senior starters and is playing a lot of young players as starters and backups. Here are a position-by-position grades for both the defense and special teams. Defense, defensive line B+. The improvement of the Ducks' defensive line, which has benefited from the shift back to the 34 scheme, is the biggest key to the unit's turnaround. In addition to being stout against the run, the defensive line has been instrumental in the team's improved pass rush. The line has produced 10-12 of the team's 24 sacks while helping to create sack opportunities for linebackers. Redshirt junior defensive end Jalen Jelks is tied for the team lead with 412 sacks, including 3 at Arizona State. His .75 sacks per game ranks tied for second in the PAC-12. Senior defensive end Henry Mondo has rebounded from a down year in 2016. He has 4 sacks to already matching last year's total. He had 612 sacks in 2015. Sacks aren't everything, of course. Jelks leads the team with 8 tackles for loss and his 1.33 per game ranks second in the conference. The return to the 34 could have been a disaster if Oregon weren't receiving quality play from freshman nose tackles Jordan Scott and Austin Failu. Scott has added 2 sacks. Neither is capable of dominating a game or playing every down. However, as a duo, they have been strong enough in the middle to help protect the inside linebackers, and both appear to have the skills to become very good in the future. Linebackers B- sophomore inside linebacker Troy Dye and redshirt junior outside linebacker Justin Hollins have been nothing short of stellar. Both use their size, speed and athleticism to be extremely disruptive on every down. Pity the quarterback that has both coming after him at the same time. Dye ranks 4th in the conference in tackles per game, 8.7, and is tied with Hollins for 5th in tackles for loss per game, 1.2. Each has 7. Hollins has forced 3 fumbles and has 212 sacks. Dye has 3 sacks. Their size and athleticism have made the 34 defense scary from all angles. However, play at inside linebacker next to Dye has been inconsistent. Kaulana Pelu, out for the season with a foot injury, played hard and fast but his lack of size at 200 pounds didn't play well at that position. Senior A.J. Hotchkins has been in and out of the lineup and the very inexperienced redshirt sophomore Blake Rugraff has been underwhelming when filling in. Thus far, the outside linebacker spot opposite Hollins, the Duck position, has been manned by junior Fatuti Leauto II and sophomore Lamar Winston Jr. Winston lately has been solid with 17 tackles, 3 for loss. Senior backup linebacker Joan Mwa has been the team's best reserve linebacker with 14 tackles and 412 sacks. Defensive back C+ gone are the days of woefully blown coverages and mass confusion. The secondary has been solid in coverage and has proven to be good tacklers in space most of the time. Senior Arian Springs, who struggled with catching interceptions, has still been great in pass coverage. His 10 passes defended are tied for second in the conference. Freshman cornerback Thomas Graham Jr., who has a shot at being named a freshman All-American, and junior Ugo Chukwu. Both are tied for 8th in the conference with 6 passes defended, including 2 interceptions. Helping make the secondary hum is redshirt senior Tyree Robinson, who has taken a leadership role. That's helped with the maturation of freshman safety Nick Pickett, who surprisingly took over as a starter and has performed well. Still, there is room for improvement. Oregon has allowed 11 touchdown passes, tied for 9th most in the conference. The Ducks have allowed 9 touchdown passes. Oregon's 7 interceptions puts it well on pace to surpass the 9 the team had all of last year. However, 6 of the 7 came within the first 2 games, with 4 against Nebraska. Oregon has not intercepted a pass in 3 PAC-12 games while allowing 9 touchdown passes. For these reasons, the secondary falls short of receiving a B grade. Special teams return game B+. Redshirt junior running back Tony Brooks James began the season with a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown against Southern Utah. He is averaging 28 yards on 10 returns, but that's not enough attempts to qualify to be ranked among the conference leaders. Otherwise, he would be ranked first. Oregon's 24.9 yards per return ranks second. Oregon's 7.6 yard average per punt return ranks seventh. This unit has been hindered by the ankle injury suffered by Charles Nelson. He is averaging 17.8 yards per return, which would rank third in the PAC-12 if he had enough returns to qualify. Nelson's replacement, Dylan Mitchell, is averaging a solid 11 yards per return. Place kicking B senior kicker Aiden Schneider is once again being used very little. He has attempted just 3 field goals, making 2. He has, however, made all 36 of his extra point attempts, and that leads the conference. He ranks 9th in the conference in scoring at 7 points per game. The 1 miss in 3 attempts prevents Schneider from receiving an A grade. But we all know that he is an A-level kicker. Punting C- freshman punter Sam Stack, who has shown great promise, ranks 12th in the conference in punting average 38.3, but has placed 9 of his 30 punts inside the opponent's 20-yard line. Again, he's only a freshman. Coverage teams B-. Oregon's net punting average is 10th in the conference, 34.7, thanks mainly to the poor average pay punt. The 1.3 return yards allowed per punt ranks 7th. The kickoff coverage team has fared much better, ranking 2nd in net average at 41.8 yards. The Oregon Ducks have already matched last season's win total 48 with a 42 record. So, there is no denying that the Ducks are on the upswing. However, 2 losses in the PAC-12 raise questions as to just how far Oregon remains from being conference title contenders. Oregon's best asset right now is its youth. The Ducks are starting only 4 seniors on offense and 3 on defense, 4 depending on inside linebacker. That means 15 starters will return next season, as well as a host of other young players who are seeing playing time. Oregon's offense, despite starting 6 freshmen and sophomores, has been one of the best in the conference, averaging 43 points per game. Nevertheless, we all saw just how fleeting success can be when the starting quarterback goes down. Without sophomore Justin Herbert collarbone, Oregon managed to score just 10 points during a 3,310 home loss to Washington State on Saturday. It's the lowest scoring output by an Oregon team since the Ducks lost 198 at Boise State to open the 2009 season. With that all said, here is a report card on the offense through the midway point of the season. Quarterback B+ Herbert picked up where he left off last season and continued to elevate his level of play. He leads the Pac-12 in passing efficiency, 172.9. The only real knock on Herbert is that he struggled to generate points in the second half against Nebraska and Wyoming, and he couldn't get the team into field goal range on 2 final drives during a 3,735 loss at Arizona State. Neither situation, however, could be blamed solely on Herbert. The reason this position doesn't receive an A is because of the mediocre play of the backups. Senior Taylor Alley and freshman Braxton Broomsider both looked out of place at this level in comparison to Herbert. The lack of depth at this position places Oregon in danger of struggling just to become bowl eligible. Running backs say Oregon is as deep and skilled at this position as it has ever been. Senior Royce Freeman ranks 3rd in the conference in rushing yards per game, 109.2, despite leaving the win over California with a shoulder injury after having gained 51 yards in the first quarter. Freeman is tied for the conference lead with 10 touchdowns. Senior Connie Benoit has performed just as well in a backup role. He has rushed for 329 yards this season and leads the team in yards per carry at 7.3. His 54.8 yards per game ranks 12th in the conference, and his 8 rushing touchdowns leave him tied for 6th. Tony Brooks James hasn't gotten off to a great start with 158 rushing yards on 3.5 per carry, but he has also caught 11 passes for 136 yards. Offensive line B-. The offensive line has played very well most of the time, but has also experienced enough lapses and has committed enough penalties to not warrant less than an A grade. Oregon ranks 2nd in the Pac-12 in rushing yards per game, 239.3. However, a lack of production in the second half against both Nebraska and Wyoming can be traced back to an inconsistent running game. The line was absolutely dominant against California when the Ducks rushed for 328 yards even though Herbert and Freeman went out in the first quarter. But against Washington State, with Brumsider at quarterback, the line failed to carry the team and the Ducks were held to 132 yards rushing. This is a very quality group, but consistency has been an issue. Wide receivers tight ends C- losing senior slot Charles Nelson ankle for 3 games set this young group back. It's unfair to expect consistency from a core that includes a converted cornerback redshirt sophomore Malik Lovett, a converted safety sophomore Brendan Schooler and converted running back junior Taj Griffin. That said, the group has been about as spotty as expected. Freshman Johnny Johnson 3 looks like a future star and sophomore Dylan Mitchell is starting to live up to his potential. At tight end, redshirt sophomore Jacob Breland has also played well, but that's a lot of freshmen, sophomores and young men making position changes to expect greatness right away. What we've seen is very inconsistent play that has hurt Herbert at times and certainly didn't help Burmeister in his start. Still, in the end, the team's youth is its greatest asset and this position figures to be much better in the future. Next up, defense and special teams. Oregon coach Willie Taggart didn't commit to starting freshman Braxton Burmeister at number 23 Stanford on Saturday but instead indicated that senior Taylor Alley would compete for the job. Well, let it go through the week and see how the week goes and make sure that the guy that gives us the best chance to win is in there to play, Taggart said. Interesting, Burmeister made his first career start in place of injured sophomore starter Justin Herbert collarbone during a 3,310 loss to No. 8 Washington State on Saturday. Burmeister did not look particularly good while completing 15 of 27 passes for 145 yards and 1 touchdown with 2 interceptions. Alley, however, didn't look better when he filled in for Herbert during a 4,524 win over California 2 weeks ago. Alley completed 9 of 13 passes for just 41 yards with 1 interception. Alley left that game after suffering a concussion and on Friday was ruled out for the WSU game, limiting Taggart's options. However, while both quarterbacks haven't performed well, it is clear that Burmeister, a 4-star recruit signed last January, is the more talented player of the two. Expect Burmeister to show improvement in practice this week and start at Stanford.